Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's bet on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? Hopefully you are doing lovely. It is ungodly hot here in Dallas, Texas. Summer has started way too stinking early. Triple digits, I hate you. Heat index, 112, 115 in the next couple days. I quit. I want to go back to Chicago. Anyway, today we have another interview from Brickworld Chicago. As you can see in the title description, it is with Elliott. Elliott had a massive Star Wars build at this show. And on Sunday, he was one of only a few interviews that I took with people just because, again, I was fried. I was so tired. I had no more spoons left. Anyway, so Elliott's episode, Star Wars stuff, story stuff. Let's get into it. All right, guys, we are back again with another interviewee here. This time I'm joined by Elliott. Elliott has, for you Star Wars fans out there, has probably one of the coolest, if not the coolest Star Wars build that is here. Elliott, thank you for joining me. It's the first time I've ever run into you. We were just chatting over there with a mutual friend. So thank you for taking some time to chat about your build today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun running into you.
Yeah.
And walking over here and doing this.
Awesome. So I'll let you run with it here. Your Star Wars build is gorgeous. It got nominated in the category. What was the category you were in?
It was Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Duh. There's just so many. And I think there were, I don't know if there were Star Wars builds in other categories. I can't remember. So talk to us. Tell us a little bit about the build that you brought.
Yeah, definitely. I started collecting clones about 3 years ago, and some 501st figures and Captain Rex, and that just kept expanding. And then I wanted to add some vehicles, so I started to mock some gunships and then an AT-TE, and then I thought, hey, I want to display this. So then it was, I want to create a base behind it, and the idea just kept kind of getting bigger. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, it really became a chance to, I don't know, represent or honor the clones, because they didn't have a great ending in their story in Star Wars. So it was a bit of a what-if scenario where essentially the Republic wins the Clone Wars and takes over Sereno, the planet, home planet of Count Dooku, and builds this base there, victory base. And it's representing, winning the Clone Wars and having the Republic take back over the galaxy and just remember the clones well. And so it originally was supposed to be about 2/3 the size. And after I got the vehicles done, they were so huge I had to expand the layout. Which is fun, but then we were a couple of friends helped me finish building it. There's a couple sections that weren't done before noon on Friday, so we just barely got it done under the wire.
Oh yeah, because it has to be done by noon on the Friday to be able to be nominated for. I forgot about that.
That's yes.
The clock is ticking the minute you unload here to be able to get everything done in time. Very, very good. But at least you did. So my audience knows I know nothing about Star Wars. Like, I love the films of Star Wars, but I know nothing of the deep dive stuff.
For sure.
Not seen the Bad Batch stuff. I don't know all of that. With the idea behind the Star Wars stuff, you've got to be a fan to some degree to be able to go to that complexity and that depth. Where's the passion come from?
Yeah, Star Wars has always been a huge fandom of mine since I was a kid. My best friend and I we had Star Wars cards and built Star Wars Legos, and I've always just really loved it. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to watch through all the Star Wars content in timeline order.
Sure.
So, up until that point, I had watched some of the shows and, of course, all the movies, but there was a lot of shows and stuff I hadn't seen. So watching it in timeline order, really connected everything together and got me really excited about, just the whole storyline. And then watching Clone Wars, the animated show, Captain Rex and Ahsoka just became my favorite character, and so those two minifigs are up on the balcony there, just kind of overlooking the army. And I really tried. I started with City, so I was a City guy first with Lego.
Okay.
And I built a City that's displayed a couple times, and I really tried to not venture too far out theme-wise from there.
Yeah.
But then I was collecting the clones, and it was a slippery slope, and I love Star Wars, so I really wanted to do a build.
You just went deep into it. You just full on. It's funny how that works, because there's some people that will stay, like you said, the people that are City people or trained people, they kind of stay there, and you start that way, and you're like, it's Star Wars, and it is a slippery slope.
Yes.
And before you know it, you end up with what you brought here. So obviously, pictures are not going to be able to do this thing justice. Nothing compares to seeing things in person at a show. Some dimensions for people that are listening to have a rough idea, so that when they can see the picture, they get, oh, okay, it's 20 feet long. No, it's not 20 feet long. But so what are some dimensions on this thing?
Definitely. So it's 8 foot by 4 foot. So it takes up a whole display table. It's a little bit deeper than one display table there. It's 86,000 pieces.
Oh my God.
And there's 324 clones on the base.
Okay.
I think it's something like 340 total minifigures.
It's not very many.
It's like 2 companies worth of troops on there.
Okay. So when you go about creating this idea, are you thinking of like battles or things like that? Like 324 minifigs, you could just stand them up in a regiment in this formation. How do you go about deciding, all right, I want these guys here to pull this part? Because Star Wars fans that are walking by may be like, oh, I recognize that as a battle in this 10-second part of a film. Mm-hmm. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I wanted to create something new that wasn't necessarily exactly a scene or a building from the show. But what I did was I went through and kind of took pictures as I was watching Clone Wars of any of the different buildings and bases, and got the stylistic looks that I might want to do, and then it was about layout and backstory. So layout, I kind of started with that first around. Step back with the troopers. I was looking at like how did they organize the troopers in Star Wars, and it's pretty similar to how they're organized in the real world. So I started with 4 squads, which is the platoon, and then I went to 4 platoons, and that was kind of the company of regular soldiers. But then I wanted to represent all the different types. So there was the jetpack troopers, there's the rangers, there's the airborne troopers, there's some of the specialists and commandos, and then a lot of the named characters from the 501st in particular. Okay. And so it was starting with like, okay, how is this army structured? But then it was, how do I represent the different types of troopers and units and people that were a part of it? Sure.
Well, you've encapsulated everything, I think, just quite perfectly. So I was a fan of it when I initially saw it. And of course, like I had mentioned to you, you see you guys are behind your table sometimes, and then you're off talking, congregating with others, or sometimes the public is too much and you're like, I got to get away for 2 hours. What are you going to do with this afterwards? Obviously, some people, they tear it down and like, it's never going to see the light of day again. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I definitely want to display it again, and there's a few things that I wasn't able to get to time-wise before this build. The first thing is redoing some of the ways that it comes apart and goes back together. Some of it was really easy, but then we learned first time setting it up at a show. A couple of the parts, I kind of re-engineer. But one of the big things is lights.
Yes, that's right. You had mentioned.
Yep, I love lights. I did a lot of lights in my city, but just didn't have time to put them in for this one. So I'm excited to kind of put some spotlights on some cool areas and light up the different sections that are normally lit up. And I'd like to add some motion too. So, for example, on the hangar, I think it'd be cool to have the hangar door open and then be able to see in and see like a couple of ships and mechanics and whatever's in the hangar.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know how crazy I want to get. I have 2 expansion ideas that would make it about 5 to 6 feet wider. Okay. With like a barracks and then a drop ship, which is basically the huge thing that brings in the ATTE walkers.
Yes.
I have an ATTE, but just not the big drop ship. I thought that'd be pretty cool to put somewhere on the base.
All right.
So a little bit of expansion, a little optimization, lights, motion. We'll see. I mean, if I make it bigger, I'll have to have more clones. So we'll see how many
so
that
the
ends
force
up
is
being.
going to increase by 150.
Yeah, exactly.
nice.
Maybe hit 500.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't going to go that far. I was like, maybe. So with that in mind, lights, motion, create a whole different vibe to it. What did you say? 86,000?
86,000.
Okay, 86,000 pieces. Obviously, you're not walking into the Lego store and saying, I'm going to buy this. Where do you source your pieces from? Obviously, Bricklink is a big deal, but obviously you mentioned you're part of a lug, so my listeners know about lug bulk and stuff like that. Where do you find all this stuff?
Yeah, it's as soon as I did the part count, I was like, do I really have this many pieces? How much? I don't want to calculate how much that costs. Like, no way. But luckily, a big chunk of it, I'd say a third, was childhood Lego that I used for foundations.
Oh, okay.
So bricks and plates and all kinds of stuff that I had growing up, I was able to kind of just like put into a lot of the bases, so that was nice. And then I did have to take apart some of my city. I really didn't want to do that, but towards the end, it just needed more and more parts. So I took apart a couple things that I was already going to redo to add to that, and then my own collection. I didn't get a chance to do lug bulk. I got a chance to participate in lug bulk this year, but we haven't gotten our orders in yet.
Oh, yes, yeah. It's still early.
Yes. So if you're thinking about becoming a part of a lug, there's so much benefit to it that isn't just the discounted brick, but there is the program where you can get some discounted brick to help with builds and that sort of thing. But yeah, then Bricklink, and in particular using Studio to digitally design some of it. I didn't design all of it in there, but some of it. And then from there, you can just upload the wish list to Bricklink and
you
kind of
pull it down
off.
from the right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that is probably one of the best innovations that came about.
Definitely.
Star Wars, your Star Wars guy, you'd mentioned a city, which we might get to it. Pull in your parts, all that good stuff. Where do you see Star Wars fandom going with Lego in general? Obviously, it's big. What if you had a wish list to put together that Lego designers would, because that team is incredible. Those guys have been together for a long time. What would you love to see them that you don't have to necessarily create? You could go, hey, I'm going to go buy this UCS set today, so I don't have to engineer it myself. What is something that you would love to see that maybe hasn't been done? Sure.
Well, the first thing that is at least rumored right now to come out is the UCS Venator. I was really hoping to get one of those. I love all of Star Wars. I'm focused on the Clone Wars for this build and stuff.
Sure.
So, but the Venator as part of that was just one of the coolest vehicles. So I'm excited about that one. I think it would be really interesting to, and also for mock builders, we see a lot of the same things. And that's okay, but we see a lot of people building Endor or building Tatooine, building Hoth, and we see a lot of the same sets kind of repeatedly coming out. So thinking outside the box on some of that stuff might be really cool. For example, like battle packs with troopers that aren't part of a specific battle, but then people can take those and create their own scenes with it or own stories with it as well. And so I think it'd be cool if Lego could support that. Minifigs are big. And then I think for mock builders, the more creative we get with the Star Wars ideas that we build, I think the more fantastic they'll all become.
Okay. And we have a Mando that's right in front of us right now. So
we do. Boba Fett hanging out right here. Love it.
Where did the Lego obsession begin? Because again, nobody starts mocking to that scale straight out of the gate. Where did the obsession begin? So
I grew up building Lego for a while, and then in high school, or just at the end of middle school, kind of began my dark ages. So I didn't really build Lego again until COVID. I think a lot of people came back to
started pulling everything back out.
Yep. And what happened was my wife brought me to Brickfest in Denver.
Oh, okay.
Which is just an expo, not a full con like this, but I saw these amazing things that people had built, and it like brought me right back to wanting to have a bunch of parts and start building. So I got the assembly square set, the modular, and I was just right back in it. And similar with my city, it was like I started with a couple buildings, and then the idea kept growing, got bigger. Yeah. I think when you can picture how it's going to come together, and then like you see it actually come together, that like keeps me going, keeps the obsession there. Yeah, keeps me wanting to build more things. I love hearing people's journeys. That is probably the coolest thing, because again, people don't just jump off.
You are the first person that I have interviewed from the Den Lug. I don't get a whole lot of you. I think when Nebraska Brick Days happened a few years ago that I was there, I think there may have been one or two, but they were like their solo. There wasn't a whole lot. So kudos to you.
Amen.
High five, being the first Den Lug person. Last thing to wrap it up. Words of wisdom, advice, somebody that wants to jump off the cliff and say, I want to start building a mock. Maybe not to 86,000 pieces worth.
Yes.
What kind of advice, words of wisdom could you give somebody?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is build for you or for your passions. Build the things that you imagine or that would excite you. And it's tough. Comparison is a really tough thing, especially at these shows. You walk around and you see these amazing things, and you think, even for my set, which is ginormous, there's that giant cyberpunk city over there, which was done by like 70 people, but still it was like, it just dwarfs everything else around it. And I had to catch myself like, okay, what I built is great. I'm really proud of it. This doesn't mean anything. And so the piece of advice, especially as you're getting started, is just like, don't compare yourself. Don't worry about if you win or not. I did get nominated and it means a ton, but I really tried not to focus on the award part. But just building something cool that I wanted to show off. And the other thing is you get better the more you build. So like at the very beginning, your first mock is going to be great for you, but like your second mock, I think you're going to see like, wow, I figured this out. It was faster, or I had cooler ideas. Or, your third, your fourth mock, you're all of a sudden, you're doing things way differently, way better than you were in the very beginning. So it just takes some time to like keep building and keep improving your own personal skill.
Fantastic. I like hearing that. Where can people find you? I know you're on Instagram, a presence there. So where can people find you on there?
Yeah, so it's at Elliott Builds Lego on Instagram. So Elliott is ELLIOTT.
Double T there.
Double T.
Okay, that's important.
That's why I say it, because, spoiler alert, even have my family still throws the one T on there, and I'm like, hey, it's two T's. But yes, two T's, Elliott Builds Lego, and what you'll see on there right now is the roller coaster and the city. So I'm going to post all the Star Wars-based content, the reels and everything, photos, all kinds of fun stuff right after this.
Fantastic. Well, Elliott with two T's on the end. I appreciate you being here, guys. Make sure you go click the follow button on Instagram, check out his stuff, because I'm sure, like the other Instagram people that have been building here that I've chatted with, you guys have a very active presence. So thank you so much for coming on, sharing your passion, sharing your build, and I hope I get a chance to run into you again at, I don't know, Brick Slopes, Cascade, Chicago again next year with lights in motion. That'd be fantastic.
Definitely. Can't wait to show you.
Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. Great story by Elliott. Great design. Great idea. And Star Wars fans absolutely loved it. It was really cool to see. As little as I know about Star Wars, I still could appreciate the build and the design behind it and what it stood for. And hopefully you can too, even if you're not a Star Wars nut. Make sure you make your way to Instagram, follow him, and you can see pictures. I'm sure he has his up there, but you can see a few of the pictures that I took of his build. Great stuff. So I have not forgotten. I know the El Dorado has not been done yet. Sonic stuff was long, to say the least. So you will get this show. If you're hearing this, you'll see it in the queue. It'll be within the next 18 to 24 hours at some point. So you will have your show. I promise. It's just, it's the post-con stuff. You go to these conventions and you're all excited and you're among friends and people that love Lego as much as you do. And you talk to them and you get to experience things with them and hang out with them till 3:00 in the morning. And then you come home and it's like, I don't really want to do anything. I'm sad. I miss my friends. I want to go back. Can I please go back? Can we go back for just a couple days? Please, can we all just meet somewhere for a couple days? And eventually, you move out of that and then you're like, okay, we're back on the horse. Let's do it. So it is coming. I do have another couple interviews, the number of interviews still for you guys coming. It's just a matter of getting those processed and ready to go for you. So be patient. They're coming. If you are listening to this and you were somebody that was interviewed and you have not heard it yet, it is coming, I promise. So I appreciate all of the support from all of you. And until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.